At what point I opened my bank account and there was minus 1 million euros. It's not expression, it's not figurative, it's a real number I got on my bank account. This is how I lost all my money and went bankrupt. And in this video, I'm going to share the best thing that happened to me and my experience and knowledge that I got from that. Why it matters for me and for you guys? Because I like to share failures, and I think we as entrepreneurs need to share our failures and fuck-ups that we do in a business because it helps us to move further. Then I can say that there are strict patterns that actually happens every day that we do. We can copy those patterns and then implement. If you copy bad patterns, you have bad results. If you copy good patterns, you have good results. And then I'll share my conclusions of what happened. So about me, firstly, I graduated high school. I went to Ernst & Young, grew up to the CFO, quit my employment job in 5 years' time. Then I started my different businesses. So in 10 years' time, I made plus 36 different companies in different fields. Mostly fintech and lending. This is what I'm mostly capable of doing that. I have experience and knowledge doing that. Then I overcame my bankruptcy and addiction. Today I'm going to share about one part of that. And up to the date, I have calculated in my Excel, yes, I have fundraised more than 100 million euros for 1,300 plus companies in European Union countries. Not only. So agenda for today, I'll share what I did. I'll share what I believed within that. There was my story, what I have ignored, the cost of paying that, and the lessons I took. So I'll go through the slides and then I will write on the dashboard the exact timeline. So first you will hear my story, like a first eye view, and then you will look the drawing on the timeline and see exactly what happened and what problems, what mistakes I did, and what conclusions you can make out of that. Okay, so the long story short, I made my money. I was working in lending business, in consultancy business, and then one friend of mine, he used to work for me, calls and says, Arthur, like I have this good customer, I'm working for him, I'm CFO there, we have a good steel business, just the COVID hit, we need your money. So I started lending them money. So lend, they pay interest, I lend, they pay interest, good business. And then I'm lending more, and eventually, until one day I understood that I'm too much invested there and I want shares. So buy out the shareholder, increase the share capital, I pull more money, and then I became a shareholder. This is my business card, how it looks like. Then I became too creative and we're starting putting different ads, Google ads and ads on different places, offline ads. This is one of the ads I like. It's called Rebar from Arthur. It's in Latvian and Russian language because it was in Latvia. So it sounds like similar endings, so it's kind of fun and people who know the language really like it. So I was the creative guy responsible for making sure that we really spread the idea that we are wholesale steel business. And this is picture of me making calls. In the steel business, actually, you don't care how you look. So this is what I'm first time appearing on YouTube sitting like this because I don't care. It's steel business, you have 100 calls, million calls per day. You are swearing a lot, you're working from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. because after 5 p.m. nobody works, all are drinking beer and alcohol, etc. So this is the office, nobody cares how you look like, it's the real, raw, untouched steel business, right? So this is me. And it looked really nice. On the picture on the right, I flew to Istanbul to look for the steel manufacturing companies like Çolakoğlu and other ones to buy steel from them. On the left picture, we have a warehouse we're trying to rent out. We actually rented out and we want to put the steel over there. Business is looking nice. And one of the business models that eventually was there was in mostly retail. We are buying and selling different steel elements, different rails and gates and fence. That was really awesome. These are real pictures of our real customers. At that point I invested in the company. And at some point we grew from 20,000 euro per month up to 500,000 per month. We're actually wholesaling it. I remember when the war started, Russian-Ukrainian war, we were importing steel from Turkey and selling it to the depot. It's like a Home Depot. Locally, it's one of the biggest shops you can go and buy anything for your construction, for your home. I remember that because that was my customer. I made that deal. I'm really proud of. Look at the color. It really matched. Now I was feeling on the top of the mountain. I felt like I'm a king. That's picture I'm sitting in by the Duke in, I think it was in Tenerife, and thinking I'm on top of the world. We're making money. Everything is good. Until one day I understood that I have a minus 1 million in my bank account. So this is what happened. And I'm going to unpack how did it went up to this number. So it pretty much started at the point something would here. So it's before. So it's before I started making money. I'll be drawing for your simplicity. This is the timeline, right? So at this point, I was making fintechs mostly, and here I was making money. So I'm making money, and by lending money in interest, by commission, by connecting banks and entrepreneurs. So I had a lot of money, and I was not thinking what to do. I didn't invest in real estate. I was just investing in different things to buy, cars, houses, and etc. And then at some point, I became greedy. And at this stage, when this guy called me and said, hey, you want to invest? I started to invest. So I was investing in many different companies. And one of those guys, but again, I was not a shareholder. I was investing money, getting back, no shares. And I became greedy and my ego went up. And my ego said, we need shares in that company. So at this stage, something here, I wanted to become a shareholder. So I became a shareholder. I remember, I think like 25%. Something like that. So I became a shareholder here and we were starting to grow the company. So we're starting like this. And here a few things happened. One, we changed the business model called B. And the second, we wanted to grow up. So we increased the revenue. It's R. So we started doing that. And by doing that, we're growing. And somewhere here we had like 500K euro revenue per month. So at that point we were growing and we were actually looking very good, very nice. So what happens? We're hiring people, our operational costs are growing, and we are paying interest. So at some point, we are paying around 4% interest. This is 4% on the loans, and our margins were about 15 to 20%, 25% actually. But at some point, by changing from retail to wholesale, the margins dropped. I didn't see that. So making $500,000, and then at some point, the cash flow was running down. It's not enough money, the margins are being lower than the interest rate, and we cannot pay the creditors because we borrow both from the banks and private investors. It was a debt funding at very high interest rate because the margins were okay. So at that stage, when the liquidity was down, we couldn't pay, I called all the creditors and I said, look, we need 3 months restructuring. This is one thing. And second, when I entered the company, somewhere here, I became a board member. So not only I bought shares, I also became a shareholder and a board member, which means in Latvian law, I became responsible and liable for the liabilities of the company if something goes wrong at some point of the stage. So it's not LLC principle, it's broken here. Even though it's LLC, in some stages, the liabilities can be transferred to a board member. Not a shareholder, but for a board member. This will happen to me. So, but I didn't know that back then. So this is, I think, like it's something like year 1, I was investing, making money, and this is year 2 when it happens. At this stage, we had 3 months. I tried to get the creditors. We got 90 days restructuring. So we were not paying any interest. We're growing the company. And at the same time, I was trying to figure out what happened. Like why the margins are lower, why this situation happens. And it turned out that in reality, I was putting too much decision-making on the main guy behind the steel business. He's in the steel business for 20 years. I was not paying attention that he had few similar companies, similar patterns in the beginning before me. He had the same. I didn't see that. I was just bluntly investing money in the business I don't understand, and I was believing that I can crack it up. Okay, who cares? So at this stage, I understood we can't pay creditors. 3 months are out, and based on my analysis results, I understand that, well, we can't make money on the wholesale with these margins, so we need to decrease the interest rates. I said that to the creditors. Creditors said, we can't have that. We need your money now, because there were like 20 plus private investors who invested in the company. And what I did, I just stopped the company, and in a few months' time, we filed for bankruptcy. So somewhere here, the bankruptcy starts. Code B, the bankruptcy starts, and here's court. In around 1 year's time, the judge says all the liabilities needs to go for a board member, and I was the only last board member that was there. And here comes the minus 1 million euro that's put as a pledge on my bank account. You can see that I have a SCB bank account, and so I have a minus 1 million. So interesting part, what happens, what happened before, and what are the lessons? First, I was not expert in this business model. The second problem I did, we were borrowing at 4% interest rate. Third, we changed the business model from retail to wholesale. And fourth, I was giving my personal guarantees to the business I don't know. So that's one. The second happened afterwards. So my main partner, who was in that steel business, found another investor. So he departed somewhere here. If at this stage we raised around 1.5, I think, million euros, right? I know why it's drawing. Sorry for my drawings. So at this stage he raised 5 million euros, and in 2 years' time again he went bankrupt on that business, though they closed the business. While me, what I was doing here, I was trying to hustle wholesale without any money. At some point we sold for about 700,000 euros steel, but then I understood I'm doing that because it's a pattern, it's a long-term pattern. I don't want to follow that anymore, so I quit that and I started making any other businesses. This is the timeline, this is what happened, and internally somewhere here I found out that actually I'm liable for everything like that, and people are calling me and asking, Arthur, where is the money, etc. So this is what happened to me and the timeline. So getting back the presentation, what are the key takeaways for me and for you guys to make sure that you don't follow my path as I did? So first, you never use the short-term debt to finance the long-term. What does it mean? It means that, so imagine that your cycle is month and you're making 5% per month. If the cycle is short, you can borrow up to 5% per month if it's your net margin, and you could be good at paying the money. So you take the money from a month, you put it in a business that really makes the cash flow within the month, and you're good. But if you start prolonging the cycle, let's say you are selling not within the month, but your customers are asking for you like 15 or 30 days delay. So it means you have 2 months right now, and now your cycle is getting longer, but the money costs the same. So if you make these 5% not in 30 days, but within 60 days, then it means you're having 2.5% per month. And as it goes, you need to make sure that you reassess your borrowing costs. And if you don't do that, it'll be a mismatch and it's done. So always remember, take long-term money for long-term projects and make short-term money for short-term projects. If you take short-term money and your project's getting longer, try to refinance it as soon as possible. The next, if the cost of capital is much larger than gross margin, then it should be very strong reason why you're doing that. Otherwise, you'll be dead. Because the unit economics is negative, you're just losing money in every cycle. This is what we got here. While the guy was retail business and he had 3 employees, he was profitable. He could pay 4, 5, 10% per month interest, he was okay. But once we change for wholesale and we prolong the cycle, that's not the case anymore. So the unit economics was negative and we were borrowing more money to pay back the previous money we took. This is the cash flow funding trap you can get into yourself. Next, you choose wisely from whom you borrow. Number 1, you need to borrow from banks because they're regulated, they're standardized, they will not lend you. So if a bank says no to you, there's a reason for that, and that needs to be homework to be done. And I will be very careful right here. So if a bank says no, and then you go to private investors, people, friends, family, fools who say yes, most probably they're A, not professional investors, and B, they're willing to take higher risk, and C, for that risk, they will ask additional person guarantees, collateral, put your house, put your kidney, etc. as a collateral. There's always, we need to pay as entrepreneurs for that. So choose wisely. Next, if you're going just for the revenue growth or people growth, make sure you have enough liquidity, enough cash. Because sometimes if unit economics is minus, just by growing your turnover, your revenue, you're just multiplying the problem that you have. Next, change your business models. So if you do that from wholesale to retail, retail to wholesale, you change payment terms and etc., you need to make sure you have enough cash and liquidity to sustain the business model, and it takes time. We had salesperson for retail, for example, they were performing very well. There were B2C customers coming to office, to a warehouse, buying for small checks, $100, $300, everything was nice. But once we change our business model to wholesale, we are selling in trucks. We have lower margins. For a truck is about $20K dollars, and we make $500 per truck. And the same sales guy cannot sell the truck in wholesale because there's a big construction company, you're competing with other wholesale companies, it's different. So our sales guys couldn't cope with the work that expected from them in terms of them selling for the wholesale. The next takeaway for me is that if you don't understand the industry, think twice. I remember this situation when I was telling to my friends and partners in business and that I'm going to the steel business. Few friends have warned me. They said, Arthur, you're a financial guy. You're not a wholesale, and more especially you're not in the steel business. I actually had a friend in the steel business who said that to me. He said, you are not made for this. We swear a lot. You know, we work like hell, 300 calls per day. And it's a lot of stress. Car is going in, going out. CMRs need to be written, taxes, customs, steel. I mean, it's very quick business. It's very quick. So you're not made for that. You're a financial guy. You're for the lending. You understand that. You need to work with people, with human, with steel. I'm not saying steel business is bad. I'm just saying for me, it was not the fit. And I was not hearing those guys because it takes time to learn. I have 10 years experience in lending, but I have 0 years experience in steel business. So the question is, and logical for me, how long time it will take me to learn that in order to go where I want to go. And then 7th, try to limit your liabilities. Since we're borrowing money from private investors, they all ask for private guarantees, and I gave them. That was a mistake, very costly mistake. Because what it means if a company cannot pay back, by the law, I need to pay back, even though I'm a board member. I could have even not board member position, but still I gave the person guarantees. So make sure you limit your downside. Because if you don't do that, we'll always ask for that, they will always go for that. Now, if you go for a bank financing, when you start your business, you're up to certain amount of revenue, let's say, for instance, up to 10 million per year, most probably banks will ask you personal guarantees, depends on the country and the type of product you take, and most probably you need to give that. But at some point at the level of your revenue and assets, you could be too big to say, no, I'm not giving any personal guarantees. Depends on the business type, depends on the country, but it could be done. But in the beginning of your journey with the banks, most probably not. And last is like 1 more month. We had that. I remember I was believing it when the shareholder and the guy that was in the steel business for 20 years, he said, 1 more month, let's do 1 more, let's do 1 more week, 1 more. And the cash was just running low, nothing changed, nothing happened. So make sure if you say 1 more month, you really have something to change there and something to do about it. Okay, so this is from my side. I share my ups and downs. I share my experience with how I lost 1 million euros in this business, how I became personally liable to that, and this in my bank account. I have recovered for that, both emotionally and financially. I'm going up from there, so I'm paying my debts. I'm making the best I can to grow my business, to grow my personal brand, to grow my company, and I'm really open on sharing that. So again, you can download my blueprint on my website to make sure that you don't continue making the mistakes most probably you could be doing, because I mean we all are doing some mistakes. Or you can watch our blueprint masterclass from one of the webinars I run. So put like and write in the comments what was the most valuable you found out from this one, because I can be sharing more stories. Just this is the biggest failure financially I had in my life, but I have other fuck up and failing stories in what I do. So thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.